A glittering ballroom, a scuffed baby grand, a billionaire in an emerald dress laughs into the microphones. If anyone can play this flawlessly, I'll marry them tomorrow. Glasses clink, cameras aim. Then a black janitor sets down his water pitcher and says, calm as thunder, "Do you mean that?" The Harbor Light Grand didn't just shine that night, it glowed. String lights threw honeyed halos across marble floors and silvered mirrors. Waiters ghosted between tables draped in linen, and the soft clatter of cutlery braided with the low hum of donor chatter. Along the far wall, half hidden behind a column of orchids, a baby grand piano sat like it had wandered in from another life. One leg was nicked. Middle C was faintly discolored, as if a cigarette had once surrendered there. At the center of a ring of cameras stood Aurelia Vance, 41, fortune famous, emerald dress carved to command attention. She had that practiced smile, equal parts warmth and weapon, made for magazine covers and strategic apologies. Reporters edged closer. Donors leaned in. Aurelia rested her fingers on the piano lid and, with a sparkle that was equal parts champagne and mischief, said, "If anyone here can play this piano flawlessly, I'll marry them tomorrow." The room did what rooms do for people like Aurelia. It laughed on cue, laughter like pearls breaking loose and scattering across the floor. It was a black tie fundraiser, after all, a throwaway line for the cameras, a harmless spark for the gossip fire. Near the back, Malik Darnell, 27, the youngest janitor on staff, refilled water pitchers. Navy work shirt, neat fade, eyes that noticed the floors, the windows, the corners no one else saw. He heard the line and paused mid-pour. The pitcher caught a chandelier's prism and tossed a quick rainbow across his sleeve. He set the steel pitcher on a side station, walked forward, not fast, not hesitant, just decided. "Do you mean that?" he asked. Heads turned like a flock. Silence arrived, not dramatic, more curious, clearing a path for embarrassment to enter if it wanted. Aurelia blinked, surprised only by the speaker, not the question. She recognized the uniform. Background people are always familiar. Their names aren't. Her smile tilted. "I suppose I do. Are you planning to audition?" A ripple of indulgent murmurs rolled through the semicircle. "This should be cute." Phones rose. A manager took 2 preventive steps closer. "If you're serious," Malik said, palm brushing the piano's scarred edge, "let's find out how serious." Aurelia gestured toward the bench with a queen's magnanimity. "By all means, impress us." His work caddy parked beside a $50,000 dress. Malik sat. The uniform looked wrong against lacquered black, but his posture didn't. He placed his hands on the keys and waited. Smirks traded places around him. 30 seconds. Someone stage whispered, "He's going to play chopsticks." Another murmured, poorly suppressing a chuckle. The first notes weren't fireworks. They were reconnaissance. He tested the piano like a diver tests water temperature with their ankle. The tone wasn't perfect. The room had swallowed a little of its honesty. He adjusted. Pressure. Pedal. Wrist. The sound clarified. He turned a corner. Tempo quickened. The left hand built a deep, steady river, while the right drew light over it in clean arcs. Conversations clicked mid-word. The chuckles stopped mid-breath. Screens lowered because somehow looking through glass was suddenly disrespectful. The whispers returned, different now, unsure of themselves. "He probably knows one piece," a woman in a pearl collar said, as if comforting herself. "Where did he learn that?" a man muttered, frown replacing grin. "YouTube," someone tried, but belief wouldn't stick. Aurelia's smirk relaxed into curiosity despite itself. She'd flung a line for applause and accidentally hooked a silence that had weight. Malik leaned into a minor passage so tender, it pressed on the softest part of the room. Then, pivot, he injected a surge that felt like rain insisting on a roof. "Not bad," Aurelia said airily, "a little too loud. But can you keep it up?" Malik didn't answer with words. His left hand rolled thunder. His right stitched light. A figure appeared in the doorway. Chef Paxton, sleeves powdered with flour. 2 waiters stalled in the aisle. The staff were watching now, not as a novelty, but as if they were hearing a private secret on a public stage. From the back, a donor in charcoal muttered, "Bet he can't read sheet music." Malik heard it, didn't look up. He climbed the treble, struck a clear bell of a note, and fell back into the current like a swimmer who knows the river by memory. "Where did you learn to play like that?" a woman asked from the front row, arms crossed, but eyes wide. "Not here," Malik said, and the room laughed, not at him this time, but with the relief of a plot revealing itself. Aurelia tapped the lid again, a nervous habit disguised as rhythm. "Surprise us." He did. The melody opened into something that sounded like a conversation between Rachmaninoff's Ghost and Sunday Morning Gospel. People started looking at him, not like a quirk in a uniform, but like an artist in a suit he hadn't needed yet. Then a private earthquake. Malik's gaze flicked down to middle C, the faint brown ring, the one that looked like a cigarette had died there. Breath caught. That mark wasn't random. Years ago, in a church on Ashbury Avenue, an old upright had the same burn, left by a weary deacon who rested his cigarette on the wood while closing up. Malik had learned on that piano. He'd traced that scar with 11-year-old fingers and promised himself he'd outgrow the chipped keys by devouring them. He pressed middle C and felt absurdly like a key had just pressed him back. No one else knew a collision had happened, but they felt the aftershock. The music changed shape, same skeleton, new skin. He pulled a theme he hadn't touched since his mother's final spring and stitched it to the room's breath. The sustain pedal hummed like a cathedral floor. The chandelier trembled by imagination alone. Phones went down. Eyes went up. A man in his 60s lowered his camera mid-recording without realizing he had. A young donor swallowed the sentence he'd been polishing about raw talent and just listened. Malik closed his eyes, not to show off, but because sight was suddenly too small a sense for what was happening. The last sequence, stacked like a storm building columns of air. Right hand arpeggios like rain, stitching glass. Left hand heartbeat relentless and sure. Shoulders moved with it, never sloppy. A final chord, then silence with edges. Not applause, not yet. The hush held as the note's ghost let go. Then the room tore itself open. It wasn't polite. It was relief and shock and a little bit of shame disguised as cheer. People stood without deciding to. Some whistled. Some stared as if they were still catching up to what their ears had already believed. Aurelia clapped, but calculation had left her eyes. Something else had nested there, respect, or the uneasy cousin of it. She stepped in. That was not what I expected. Malik met her gaze, steady. Most things worth remembering aren't. The cameras didn't catch the faint flinch in a few faces when his words landed. They didn't need to. The story had already slipped out of Aurelia's grip. The room belonged to the janitor, with the calm hands and the past he hadn't advertised. People swarmed. A woman draped in silver asked, "Where did you learn?" "At home," Malik said. "My mom bought an old upright from a church sale, $50. A few keys didn't work. The ones that did were hungry." A tuxedoed man tilted his head. "So, no conservatory?" "Figuring it out is training," Malik answered. And someone in back laughed with relief because the line was so clean and so right. Henry Leclerc, the Harbor Lights general manager, found him in the crowd. "You've worked here how long?" "8 months." "And you hid this?" "No one asked," Malik said, and a donor shifted, the sound of a conscience clearing its throat. A local reporter, Tanya Ruiz of the Riverton Daily, held up her phone. "Can I grab a quick ID clip? Name, where you're from? This will travel." Malik shook his head. Let the music do the talking. He stood. The crowd parted like a new idea. By midnight, a shaky guest video hit the internet. By 3 a.m., it had climbed past 300,000 views. By morning, it was on breakfast TV under a banner, "The Janitor Who Stopped a Gala." Some clips praised a prodigy discovered. Others dragged the room for its early smirks. A creator stitched the moment someone's smirk died and captioned it, "Class meets class." A freeze frame of Aurelia's face, stunned, then softened, circulated with the caption, "When you challenge the wrong guy." In his walk-up above a laundromat, Malik's old laptop pulsed with notifications. A friend messaged, "Bro, you're everywhere. Please tell me you're making a channel." Malik rubbed his neck. He hadn't asked for fame. Fame had mistaken his address for someone else's and decided not to correct itself. At the hotel, Henry fielded interview requests that stacked like dinner plates. National shows called. A producer from a morning program in LA asked if Malik could fly out tomorrow. Aurelia's publicist urged a coordinated narrative, an on-camera reunion, a joint statement. Own the story, the publicist insisted. Frame the lesson before the internet frames you. Aurelia stared over her coffee at the city. He's not a prop, she said. If he wants to meet, I'll meet. If he doesn't, I won't choreograph him. That afternoon, Malik took a call from the Metro Ledger. Will you go full-time music now? The journalist asked. I don't let a viral video write my life, he said. What do you want people to take away? That you don't know someone by their uniform. Malik answered. And talent doesn't come with a dress code. 2 days later, Malik sat in a quiet corner of Harbor Brew Cafe. He'd agreed to meet Aurelia off-camera. She arrived 5 minutes late, city on her heels. No emerald dress now, navy blazer, hair pinned back. I owe you an apology, she said once the coffee steamed between them. I tossed a joke into a room I control, and you turned it into something I didn't. I didn't play to prove you wrong, Malik said. I know. That's why it worked. She stirred her coffee, metal tapping porcelain. Your playing was lived in, like you've been hauling it a long time. I have. Since I was 10, Mom found that church upright. Keys were chipped. Music was whole. Lessons? Couldn't afford them. I listened. I copied. I failed. I tried again. Sometimes I snuck into the community center, played until the janitor kicked me out. She smiled. Now you're the janitor. He grinned back. Scene's fair. Why not chase the commere? She asked. Life, he said simply. Mom got sick when I was 17. Bills make noise. Music stayed, but quiet. Aurelia nodded slowly. That clip matters to people. My inbox is full of strangers telling me it reminded them of something they buried. I'm not offering to save you. I'm asking if you want a stage. And if I don't, then nothing changes. But if you do, I can put you in front of listeners who actually came to listen. He didn't answer. He was remembering his mother folding laundry, humming off-key to melodies he'd make right. She used to say, you tell stories without words, baby. She would have wanted those stories to travel. I'll think about it, he said. They left it there. Respect, undecided, on the table between their empty cups. The decision was made for him the next day by someone who had nothing to gain. In the lobby, a woman in a faded denim jacket bounced a toddler on her hip. You don't know me, she told Malik, but my son doesn't sit still, ever. When I played your video, he went quiet and listened till the end. First piece we've had since his dad passed. Her eyes shined but didn't spill. Thank you. Malik's throat tightened. I'm glad it found you. That night, he called Aurelia. About that stage, he said, I'll take it. 2 weeks later, backstage at Lyric Hall, they waited in the dark hum before lights. The program billed him simply, Malik Darnell, piano. No hyphens, no adjectives he hadn't chosen. The hall was full of donors, families, skeptics who came to be right, believers who came to be healed, and a few reporters who came to decide which group they belonged to. This feels different than the gala, Malik said, flexing his fingers. Because they came for you, Aurelia answered. He stepped into the light. Warm applause rose, not polite, welcoming. He nodded, sat at a Steinway that had never seen a mop bucket, and began with something of his own. Gospel warmth, braided to classical architecture. The hall grew still, the heavy kind of still that whistles through bones. Between pieces, he spoke into the dark. Most people will know you from whatever they can see in 5 seconds. That's not your whole story. It never is. He played for nearly 40 minutes. He closed with the piece from the Harbor Light, the one stitched with a middle C burn that only he understood. The ovation rose like weather. In the wings, Aurelia clapped, not at a story she controlled, but at a truth she'd been lucky to witness. After, people waited with programs to sign and stories to tell. A violin in an attic, a grandmother who taught scales with cookies. A man who quit a conservatory to pay rent and wondered if it had counted for nothing. Malik listened like a confessional priest and gave back what he had. You carry it, even when you're not carrying it in public. On the curb, under a street lamp that made everything look briefly like a movie, Aurelia handed him a folded document. "One more thing," she said. He opened it. Transfer of ownership, the serial number of a baby grand. A note, donated from Ashbury Avenue Church after the flood, acquired by Harbor Light Grand. His eyes slid to her. "I made some calls," Aurelia said softly. "It's the same piano. The scar on middle C sealed it. It's yours, if you want it." The hotel agreed. "I paid the restoration. Consider it not a favor, a correction." For a moment, the city noise thinned. Malik pictured the chipped keys, the church light through dusty glass, his mother humming off-key, the deacon's cigarette ring. He laughed once, the kind you breathe rather than make. "I want it," he said. "Good," Aurelia replied, and for the first time since the gala, her smile wasn't strategy, it was simply human. He didn't know if he'd tour, or cut an album, or keep playing on Saturdays for whoever needed to hear Hope with 88 teeth. He didn't need to know. He just knew the music wasn't going back into hiding, and that some promises you make to yourself at 11 years old can survive everything. If you're holding something you love, music, paint, words, don't wait for the perfect stage. Share it where you are, in whatever you're wearing. You can't predict who will hear it. You can't guess which life it will steady. It might be someone across the world, or it might be your own. And if a room laughs when you step forward, play anyway. Make them listen. Let the last note teach them how to clap.